Good afternoon, Patriots, and welcome to the 94th audio chat on the Q News Patriot Rumble Channel series. I am the Q News Patriot, joined today by longtime deep researcher, truther, and blue collar worker Alisa Sioni. My name is SG Anon. In the process of this great awakening journey, one of the cool components of the information age and that the information age offers to each of us is the ability to have conversations across state and even international boundary lines just as easily as we would have them across the dinner table. It gives us a chance to learn and connect with one another and to hear about the life experiences and oftentimes the decades of research and passion poured into topics that have been conspiracy for far too long. Miss Elisa is certainly one of those fitting into that category. It's a pleasure to have her on the show. Thank you very much for joining me.
Well, thank you, SG and on. I appreciate it. I was really looking forward to being here today and being able to talk about different topics. I'm really looking forward to that. So I guess it depends on where you want to start at. But first, my brothers and sisters, I want to say hello to you. And my name is Alisa Sione, and I'm here to assist SG and on to answer a lot of questions that I've had out there in the public. So I hope that you all do enjoy it.
Well, fundamentally, I feel like that's a reverse introduction on my own channel, and I very much appreciate it. I'm humbled by it. For the audience out there, since you're meeting them for the first time, Elisa, do you mind to give us a quick summary background of who Elisa is and how you came to this great awakening?
Well, I am a Southern woman. I live in South Carolina. And for the majority of my life, for 27 years, I was a contractor. I built houses. And not just houses, but all the way up to cabins was the last thing that I was working on. And and it was just, the knowledge of being able to create something from the ground up and seeing that you took part in it. It's kind of like that moment that it seemed like time just went by really, really fast. It was nothing, and then it's something. So that was very impressive to me to be able to create things from the ground up and see how it functioned. And I also discovered in the midst of all of this that the houses and stuff that we live in are not efficient. There are a lot of them are stick houses or what they call match houses, and that means that they're very flammable, and people don't realize that. But I am also one of the people that promote, if you're going to build a house, used thicker treated wood. Not the way it goes is they would do it 16 on the center. In other words, two by boards are 16 inches apart, and it's not supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be 12 inches, and therefore whenever it's wider, it makes the house more flexible. It makes it more bendable, and therefore it can cause more damage. But other than that, that knowledge I took forward, and in my experience in building houses, I was up in Boone, North Carolina, and I was building a cabin up there, and I got to be up there for about 17 months. And in that 17 months on top of those mountains, I seen some stuff. Let me tell you about it. I was like, it really raised a lot of questions, a lot of red flags. And I'm like, this is just not normal. I mean, here it is at the top of these mountains, you can see out, and you can actually see that there's UFOs. And I can see why they use that as a cover, because when they were down on the ground, you really can't see that. So it helped to persist me going forwards and trying to find out more information about UFOs while I was doing contracting, because that became my interest. And then people would tell me stories about it. It was like something was in the air that was bringing this stuff to me. I wasn't expecting it to come into my path, but every time I turn around, it was somebody else telling me about a UFO story and so forth. And that led me into doing more research. And I'm really, really glad that I did, because I don't know if anybody is aware of the Grenada Treaty with Eisenhower. But if you go read that, you can actually look it up. If you're going to read that, it shows that he signed a treaty with these extraterrestrials, and he sold us out, for technology. And the agreement was, well, you can abduct, like 0.1% of the population for your experiments and all this kind of good stuff. And that just went haywire. They just definitely did not abide by this here treaty. And whenever Eisenhower finally got some gumption to do something about it, it was too late, because he wanted to get in down there into Area 51, and they wouldn't allow him, even though he was president. And so he said, well, I have my own army, and I'm going to bring them, and you're going to let me in. And so he persisted to go down there. And whenever he got there, he was forcing them to open the door so that he could see what was in that bay. And sure enough, whenever they opened it, he could see that it was actually a UFO that was levitating. And that was a shock to his system, and he wanted control over it. And they said, no, it's too late. And there actually was a battle. From my information, from what I have discovered, there was a fight between the group that was there and what Eisenhower had brought. Now, the story goes that there wasn't just soldiers on the other side, but these guys actually had reptilian soldiers on their side. And it cost a lot of our guys their lives, and Eisenhower lost. Okay. And but that they took control at that time. From the best of my understanding, that's whenever all of this here got taken over in more public eye, is the way I'm going to say it. And therefore, they have been controlling our system for quite a while. It's actually been, 1,000 years, but the public is just now catching up for the past couple of 100 years. And that is quite a surprise to the system whenever you realize that you have actual extraterrestrials that are walking amongst us that even look like us, and they're incognito. And the reptilian type are the ones that have this here pineal gland, and theirs excretes and causes a vibration to where they can cloak. Ours, we can just see into the beyond. Okay, we can see into the future if we really try. But theirs is like a defense mechanism, and you got to appreciate that. Okay, it's a defense mechanism to help them hide themselves so that they can't be harmed. So that's actually pretty intelligent. But they use it against us, and they can also cause themselves to look like somebody else because they can radiate a frequency that messes with ours. Okay, I don't know if anybody is familiar with the bells that everybody has spoken about in Tartaria. There were bells everywhere. Okay, and it was a massive thing. It wasn't a ringing of all times. It was like a certain time of ringing, that would happen. And it causes a vibration and a frequency that was very healing to people. And whenever these guys invaded, they found out they couldn't be around these bells because that frequency would allow the people to see them. And that's whenever they knew that they had to get rid of the bells and hide. And therefore, like I said, they destroyed all of these bells just so that we couldn't use them against them to be able to see them amongst us. So that was something that a lot of the public really does not know. And that's part of history with Tartaria. All right, now I went as far as not just UFOs, but then I got out into the public eye trying to educate people, because whenever I discovered in my research and with the help and assistance of God, that bringing the flat earthers and the round earthers together was what I wanted to do. I wanted to put a third option on the table to help my brothers and sisters. Now, they both got compelling cases. I'm not going to, knock that, because if you listen to them, they actually do have some pretty good cases they could put on the table. And what they need to do, my brothers and sisters, is to give you that. It might be the first option, but it became the third option, which I'm fixing to say, is that if you combine those two, okay, I'm going to show you here. It's going to be a little bit more helpful. This is what people would call the dome. As everybody is inside this dome. They say, bring down the dome, it's the firmament, blah, 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 and all this kind of good stuff. Well, actually, that dome that we are under is 100,000 miles around. Now, because it's so massive, okay, it can be perceived as round or flat because it's so expansive. But here's the kicker. In the center of that, there's one little ice wall, and then there's another one on the outside before you get to the dome. And inside that inner ice wall, as it's called, is 25,000 miles around. And they say that that's what our Earth is, and our Earth is not. If you look at this here dome on here, and I did this with the best of representation I could, but that dome is 100,000 miles around. Okay, now it takes 6 of those to go around Gaia. That means she is 600,000 miles around. It's called the Big Lie. She is actually a super Earth. They have told us several times in shows and stuff like this here that we are on a super Earth, or they have portrayed that have found a super Earth. But Gaia is a super Earth, and she has only land on the top and land on the bottom, and all in the center is nothing but water. Now, she does have straggly islands here and there around her equator, but for the most part, she is like an apple that's been cored out and all of it's filled in with water, but only land on the top and land on the bottom. And the way that we sit on that is about like that, because the North Pole is right here and we're sitting off onto the side. But because of the magnets that's up here, what's called Mount Meru is a very powerful mountain that is actually a magnet. They're like nodes all over her, but this one here got trapped inside the dome. And therefore, that would be our north. And because we're so close to the North Pole, it's true North Pole, these energies, that the dome is like a force field. a very, very advanced technological force field that prevents us from being able to go out of it. And because it's a frequency, it clashes with the frequency outside that dome. And what does that happen? That causes the auroras. Okay, you can actually see the clash of those frequencies by the auroras. The stronger the vibration of the frequency outside of it is going to make them more in here. In other words, they can come further south to us if it's a stronger one. But for the most part, as you can see, we are on a super Earth. And it is called the Big Lie. Now, I've had a lot of people say, okay, well, how do you know that? How do I know that we are on a super Earth? Okay, well, I know that we are because I have, everybody's heard of Tartaria. Well, those people, they still exist. And outside of that first ice wall is more continents, okay? And out there it is called Tartaria, okay? And these beings are for real. They're not extraterrestrials or anything like that. They're just like us. They're people, okay? They do have different colors just like we do, but they're more of they haven't mixed like we have, okay? And but there is so many of them out there in Tartaria, but they were trapped in slaves just like we were, well, just like we were, because we're not anymore. And therefore, whenever they got liberated in their lands, now they are going to come here to help us with our lands. They're bringing the technology. A lot of this stuff is coming in. It's not coming from outer space. It's because they already have it. So they're just bringing it to us, okay? But I do have Tartarian friends, okay? Hanai and Kalen and Dia are the three that I have met that has come from Tartaria. And over in Tartaria, it's a little different than we are. We all have last names. Well, they do not. They come from houses. You know, a lot of people will register with that with Worf from Star Trek because he comes from the house of, oh my God, I forgot it. But that's how the Tartarians are. They come from houses. And Hanai comes from the house of Onaka. And that you can assume that, yes, he looks Oriental. And Kalen comes from the house of Beline. Okay. But this is the house that their great-great-great-grandfather started. So they are very family oriented. And they do, you know, you help all of it. It doesn't matter. You help your family. That is your point, is to make sure that a lot of the Japanese people will do that. They stay in a generational house. Well, it's not that they stay in just one house, but they stay in that generational house called like the House of Wanaka. But these people have very advanced technology. They do have spaceships. They even have things called shuttles. And I actually did get picked up by one of these little shuttles. It was quite surprising. I was standing at my kitchen washing dishes and I'm looking out at my backyard. And I happened to see this man and this woman standing in my backyard. And the only way they can get there is go through my front yard. So I was in a huff. You know, who the hell are these people in my backyard? So I go out the door and start walking towards them. And as I'm walking towards them, I'm like, wait a minute, I know these people. And the closer I got, I can feel this love, this welcomeness. And it's like a deja vu kind of feeling. I know these people, you know, and they were telling me that they were here to pick me up so that they can take me to go to a meeting. Okay. And it was like, for some reason, I was just complying and very, very happily to do it. But Hanai turned around, and whenever he touched the air, my brothers and sisters, it was air. It opened up into a door. Okay. And then I can see there was like a compartment in there. And once I walked inside with him and Kaylin, I could see that it was a little shuttle. Okay. It was like a seat, one seat in the front and then a bowed seat in the back that where you can hold like 3 or 4 people. So it was a little pod looking shuttle. And then the door closed. And while I was inside of it, it was all pretty much very smooth, very, very smooth. But wherever I looked is where I can see out because it was solid. Okay. It's like I was inside of an egg or something. And whenever I looked, that part of it I could see out of it. The only reference I have is what that movie Jodie Foster did. where she was in that thing, and every time she would look someplace, you can actually see through it. Well, that's the kind of experience that I had. But as I was looking, Kaylin is asking me, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yes, I've been waiting for this." And I can see myself, we're going up. And as we're going up, I can see my yard. I can see, you know, my town, and then so forth. I can see the state. And as I got higher, I can start seeing the continents. And that's when I realized they've been lying to us about our continents. They are not set up the way that they claim that they are. That was the first realization, my brothers and sisters, is the continents are not laid out like they claim that they are. Okay, so that was a moment of an epiphany. Hey, this is a lie. And because I'm distracted by it and I'm still looking down, and as he kind of like, I felt this thing turn. And whenever it turned, I could see that there was a mothership out there. And this thing was massive. It was like two soup bowls on top of each other. Okay, it was absolutely massive. It was enormous. And as I turned back to look at Earth, I can see what she looked like, and I could see this dome that was sitting on the part of her. And that was just one of those stop moments. You don't even know what to think or how to respond because you're not sure what you're looking at. So it definitely got my attention. And again, Caitlin, she touched my shoulder, and it turned my attention back towards this mothership that we were going to. And as we came up to it, it had like a force field kind of opening to it that you would just go through it. And whenever we went inside, we had landed. And I'm telling you, this place was so huge. There were tiers of these ships, different size of ships. There were smaller ones and medium ones and some larger ones. It was the largest ship hangar I have ever seen or ever could have fathomed. This thing was immense. But that is how I got to see what Gaia looked like. But they told me I was going to a meeting. But as they took me, I went down this very long corridor, very wide, like a hospital corridor. And at the end of it, we took a right. We got on a elevator. We shot straight up, and it was very quiet. It was like instant almost. And then whenever it opened up, I was going down another very wide corridor. But at the end of that corridor, I could see these giant glass, okay, windows. So I went up to it, and again, I can see Gaia out there. And I can see that she has this dome, and I can see that she's not even I'm like, I'm very confused. So, and I'm wondering, and I'm crying because I don't believe what I'm seeing. It's such a shock to see, you know, is this the truth? And they're telling me, yes, it is. It's called the big lie. And I'm like, well, what is that? They're telling me it's a dome. And I said, well, how did it get there? And they were telling me about how it got there. And then the energy is so good, you can't get mad. You're only logical. Okay. You're practical, you're logical. And I, even though I was crying, that was good tears because I'm seeing something that's so amazing. Okay. But I wanted to know how it happened and what can we do to fix this? You know, how do we go about fixing this? They said that's what they're here for, is to help us to fix it. But nobody can come outside the dome because, which goes into another story, is that a lot of people are familiar with the photon belt. Well, our star hit the photon belt in 2012. That's what the Mayans were talking about, the golden age. It's because we crossed that threshold into a light band that comes off of the galaxy that is 2,000 light years across. Okay. And once we hit that, because it's super energy, that whenever a star hits it, I don't care what color the star is, whenever that star hits that supercharge, it's going to turn white. Okay, it is supercharged. And that's why our star right now is white. That's one thing that they're trying to let us know, that our star is white. It's not yellow. It never was yellow. It was a long time ago. It was yellow. But with this dome over us, in the beginning of it, it was like a clear fishbowl. Okay, but whenever the Greys and the Anunnaki teamed up and so forth, and the reptilians, it just went wrong, and they covered it with ice. Why? To make it a perfect screen, so they can project our skies to us as they see fit. Okay, and the other thing is they project everything very far away. Why? Why would they do that? Okay, it's because they want us to think that it's unachievable. It's unrealistic. We'll never get there. And if we do try to attempt it, it's going to take trillions of dollars. You see, that's their logic. To make money off of us is to deceive us on a grand scale. But with everything that I've gained in my knowledge is to go forwards and try to inform my brothers and sisters of the things that I have come across and information that I have received. I have actually also met two Palladians, Onar and Corian, and they are the ones that is helping and assisting me with the advanced technology that is going to be needed in all of these here medbed facilities that everybody has been talking about. Okay, now if you just think about a world map, just like the one you see on my wall back here, there's about 75,000 of these facilities that are underneath the ground and mountains and the waters and so forth that are helping to prepare the masses. Okay, there's going to be so much that's going to be done here on the surface that's going to be being brought into the hospitals and so forth. Okay, right now they have out the first generation, the EE system. Okay, now but since see this story just keeps going deeper, but since the Chevron case got overthrown in the Supreme Court, who is the ultimate God controller of the FDA, can no longer do that. Now it's allowed for us to be able to bring out our herbal shops and these here second generation of the med beds. And the purpose of us trying to get this here out there is to get it into public's mind that these things are real. They are actually practical here. We can see them, touch them, we can experience them. It's to get us used to this technology and know that the possibilities are there. So that will pull us to a third generation because people are being, they're being excited about something that can help. So why wouldn't they want to go forward with it that when they have a loved one that could really use something like that? So it's going to make it more demandable. You see, I need to come up because we got a family. So that'll bring your generation in. And what it's going to do, it's going to bring those generations all the way till it meets up with these ones that are called the quantum med beds. Okay. But we have to get the public used to it because you can't bring out advanced technology like that, including replicators, to a public that massive with bad guys on field. That's just not going to happen. If you put a med bed facility out, a real one, out in the public eye, what's the chances of it getting Molotov, or a protest or bombed or any kind of different things to distract us, to discourage us? And they're also going to put fear into you about it. That's against God. Don't do that. That's evil, because you're going to have so many different players on the field. So how do you omit that kind of chaos? You keep it in the backgrounds and these facilities that they have done for us so that whenever we get our chance to go, we're doing it in private. Okay, we're not doing it in public to where it's unsafe. And once it gets to a balance where things are a lot safer, then these things will come out into the public eye even more so. So I just want to encourage everybody to keep going forwards with everything that is happening. I do know that this here November 5th is not going to be like anything we've ever experienced before. I can't say who is going to do whatever, but all I know is that God has informed me that it will be not like nothing we have experienced before. But I do have a gist of it. Whenever Trump first came in, that the purpose of that, from the best that I can perceive it, is that he was ruffling our feathers, getting us riled up and getting us to do research because he was saying these things. He was making all these claims. And people were like, no, that's just bullshit. But he got us aroused enough that we actually did do the research. And we discovered that a lot that he was saying was truth. And that made us go further and further and further. So let's just say that was the initial ding. Okay, wake up, my brothers and sisters. So now here it is. It comes the second time for him to get into office. Well, if you think about it like a movie and a 4D chess game, right? You have to be strategic enough. And your plan is to wake up the masses. Okay. Well, you need, by the time he got done with that first 4 years, enough of the masses wasn't awakened enough for it to go forwards like it was supposed to. Okay. And God says, we're not going to leave anybody behind. We're going to get the majority and we're going to bring them over to our side. So how does one wake up 400 million people in the United States? How do you do that? Yeah, piss them off. And you show them what the government is really their intentions and what they're going to do to us and what they have been doing to us. That is a rude awakening. My heart goes out to everybody that is going through this turmoil since Biden's been in office. But let me tell you something. It's been one hell of a lesson to wake up our brothers and sisters. Okay, because now here it is come this time. How many of us awake are this time? Think about it. There is more than almost 80% of us that are awake now. So are we going to allow this to happen? No, it's not going to happen again. They're not going to pull crap over our eyes. What it is that We need to show that we are going to take control. And how do we do that? We unite. That's how we do that. But we can't do that if we only got a half a boat of people. We need the majority of people to come on board. It doesn't matter what color you are, where you're from. What matters is to do the right thing for the people. Okay, because we have been done wrong for so long, and we deserve this stuff. We are worthy and deserving of the best possibility lives that any of this has to offer us. But we can't do that if we don't band together. And during this whole process, I have been really proud of my brothers and sisters that now here comes up the second time on November 5th that we'll get a chance to do something. But now the majority of us is awake on a grander scale. And logic dictates that you cannot fail with that kind of power, with that kind of unity. Okay, so I wanted to tell everybody that I love you, and I'm very, very proud of my brothers and sisters for all that we have accomplished, and it's only going to get better. And I didn't mean to run like that, SG but thank you. Even I need a drink of water.
That's a remarkable, summary really of a great deal of the questions I had for our discussion today. I just really appreciate the thoroughness, quite frankly. You've spawned off so many more questions. It would take us 2 hours to cover some of them, and we're sort of time prohibited in that regard. But here's a significant question throughout this entire, as I've been listening to your sharing your story, your background, your experience. And I'll be completely honest, had we crossed paths when I was 19 years old, finally coming around to some of these topics, but in my youth being pretty hard-headed, I probably would have said, wow, that crazy old lady. And then I would have kept right on walking. And yet I find myself, compelled by a significant amount of your story, especially your UFO account, where you describe, fundamentally the exact same themes, just presented in a way that's digestible for you spiritually with where you were at. But a lot of the exact same themes that we see across those various accounts. So let me ask you this. As we look forward ahead at the Great Awakening journey, and as we look at the issues that you've talked about with respect to the nature of the earth, the nature of getting along with one another, unification, I found myself, hearing a lot of good old-fashioned Southern wisdom, as we would say here in the United States of America. But part of that, I think, is ties back to a pretty deep spiritual component. And you certainly seem as though you're a lady of faith and that you've been dramatically impacted spiritually over the last 25 years. So if I may ask, without it being too big of a question, hopefully, what is the spiritual component of all of this really trying to teach us?
Well, we are like the Odyssey. We're on a journey to discover who we are. We forgot who we are, so we lost control. Okay. And the purpose is, to go through all these trials and tribulations in order to wake up. And the more that you are awake and realize that you are God in a body, okay, you are having this experience. There's only one God. So how does one God entertain itself? It makes copies. And we're talking Google copies. Okay. And it's to experience itself. But in this particular, we're going to say this particular world, this game, part of it is you come in and you forget who you are. And believe me, there is so many that wants to come here because this is like the ultimate game, because you don't have a body and you're very excited to learn things, no matter how extreme it may be. It doesn't seem like that on the other side. So, but we came here because there were so many of our brothers and sisters that fell into the reincarnation because they fell asleep so deeply, they forgot who they were. And not only did they forget who they were taken advantage of by these evil entities, these extraterrestrials, these the reptilians and the Anunnakis and the Greys and so forth. But they got into such a deep coma, we're going to put it like that God needed some pros to come in. Okay. So, and I actually remember being called. It was like I was I was 27 years old, and I was going to the bathroom in the middle of the night. And as I go into the toilet, you have to pass a sink that has a mirror on it. Okay. And as I passed it, something caught my eye and it made me look back. And whenever I looked back, that was the most beautiful version of me it was possible. When I was 27 years old, I thought I was beautiful, but this was even better. Okay. I mean, I was symmetrical. I mean, everything was just perfect about me. And I'm just in this awe moment. I'm just, what is happening? But as I'm looking around and as I look down, there's like this golden ticket that's sitting on the sink. And I hadn't touched it. I was just looking at it. And all of a sudden I'm in a rush. I got to go. I got to go. I got to go. I got to get ready. I got to go. And just as soon as I that ticket, I was in this place. I don't even want to call it a place, but there was no ceilings, no walls. And the floor had like a mist on it. But as far as the eye can see in every direction, there were these beings, human looking and extraterrestrial looking, all kinds of different beings. I'm talking from small to the biggest. It was just as far as the eye could see, like oceans of them. And everybody's wearing the same thing. It's like a white robe kind of looking thing. But I'm standing around these people, and I know these people. It's like, I've been knowing these people, and there's so many of us, and I'm looking up above, and I can see again just like an ocean of people in every direction, all kinds of different beings. And everybody's talking amongst themselves. We were called here. We were called here. What are we called here for? And then all of a sudden we heard these trumpets, very loud, deep trumpets, and it went off 3 times. And whenever the 3rd time it went off, this massive light came into play. Ooh, hold on. Ooh. Came into play, and all of us dropped to our knees. Everybody, no exception, everybody. And we all knew it was God, or at least that perception of us to perceive it so that we can understand it. And we were called because God needs his pros to come down here and wake up his children that got stuck here. Okay. And so it's kind of like a football game. We're fixing to lose, and God's not going to have that. So he sends down some pros to help save the game so that we can all succeed and come out of this. So therefore, God called in a lot of top 5D, 6D, and 7D, and 8D dimensional beings to come down here incognito. Okay. And we have all of this knowledge on how to fix it, on how to unite, how to bring back this technology into a unified world that is heaven on earth. Okay. And to bring the technology is the biggest thing, is because we need these med beds, my brothers and sisters, for the initial thing, because we are so filled with poisons and toxins. Okay. And the med beds are going to be able to clean all of this out of us. Okay. It's going to grow limbs back. It's going to give us new body parts that we had lost and so forth. But the biggest thing is going to take us back to a very healthy, that is called the original blueprint. Okay. That's what you were before you came in. That's like your little door you're fixing to go through. You had all these plans. You knew what you were going to do, blah, 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 and who you was going to meet and everything else. But once you were born, then you forget, because you agreed to come into this game with amnesia. So, but once you get the foots on the ground, then you got the toxicity. You got the people who are running the system, the people who are running the game. They are putting toxins and chemicals and metals and everything else into your body. Okay, they don't want you to progress and wake up, especially since they know we're coming in. They don't want us to wake up and realize who we are, especially the pros that came in to help the ones who fell asleep. And but like I said, whenever we come in here, we have a plan. Now, whenever you get into the med beds, it's going to give you back that plan. Okay. You're going to remember every bit of it. And it's also going to give you a very younger body. Okay. Now, we all are required to have a younger, healthy, non-toxic body. Why? Because again, I spoke of the dome. Okay. Like I said, we're in a photon belt that is 2,000 years wide. Okay. And it's on a wave that goes up like a roller coaster and it comes back down. It's going to take us 1,000 years to get to the top, and 1,000 years, or 1,000 light years to get to the top, and 1,000 light years to get to the bottom. Okay. But as we're going up that roller coaster, the frequency gets higher. Gaia's frequency will get higher and higher and higher. All right, she's already in photon belt. We're just inside the dome. We're not, because we're inside this bubble, so to speak. But it will get to a point where the frequency is so high that dome is going to come down. Okay. And when it comes down, we're going to be hit with that energy. And the only way our bodies is going to be able to handle that energy is to be non-toxic, non-metal. Okay, nothing inside of us. And don't worry about, if you have metal parts in your body. Okay, all of these things can be taken out with these med beds and so forth. But it is for us to be ready for what they call the solar flash. Okay, but whenever that dome comes down, that flash hits us, it needs to go slap through us. If there's any obstacles, it will destroy it. And that is a fact. Because you are inside what the galaxy would have its own type of heaven, and that is in the photon belt. It is so pure. It is absolutely such a pure, loving frequency. Nothing negative, nothing evil or synthetic can be in that light, because it has to be true. It's of God. You are God in a body. And these people have poisoned these avatars. So we need to get these avatars cleaned up. And that's why one of my projects is the Medbed facilities. Okay, so because I understand the purpose of it is to get our brothers and sisters up to par, so that by the, I'm going to say somewhere around 2050, maybe after that, I don't quote me on that. That's just a guess. That if when that we should all be out of the med beds by then. Okay, and we should be able to build up our world a lot better by then, to show the unity and love. Okay, because whenever that dome comes down, it's all about love, my brothers and sisters. It's all about love. If you don't have that in your heart, and the best thing is, if you only have 51% of it in your heart, you're going to be able to go forwards, because then you're going to want to know the information. You're going to want to raise your frequency, and you're going to want to go towards the med bed. You want to go, go and help humanity and so forth. That means that you're on the right path. As long as you have 51% of or love in your heart, you're good to go. Okay, just keep going forwards. Okay, and those who don't have that, that love in their heart, unfortunately, they're going to go on a negative side into a 3D world that's going to be of their making, whether it be apocalyptic, with zombies, or Hillary's president, whatever it may be. That would be on them. That's on them. But you can't get sad about it, because they're reflections of you that are learning a lesson. They just happen to be over there learning their lesson a little bit different than you learning yours over here. Everything you see, no exception, is you. Okay, it's a reflection of you. And how are you going to treat you? How are you going to talk to you? Okay, are you going to judge yourself, or are you going to help yourself? Well, these are the choices that's coming down to the final line. If be of love, be of service, be helpful to your brothers and sisters, because it does matter. This is what their book Revelations talked about, and the most horrific way, in my opinion, I do not resonate with that. But I do know that God is separating the wheat from the chaff. He's separating those who are negative in thinking and in heart away from those who are positive and loving in their heart, because we are heading to 5D, and we are heading to heaven on earth. And like I said, nothing negative and nothing evil can dwell within that space. So all of that evil and negativity has to be getting out, and it's going to go out to its own kind of world, whatever its reality it wants to experience. So because it needs to learn, because that's what it decided it wanted to learn. Okay.
Shoot, I
So
think that might be a better conclusion than the one I was sort of formulating in my brain on the other end of the microphone here. Miss Alisa, I do have to ask, though, before we disconnect, for patriots out there that want to connect with you, learn more, follow any projects that you might be a part of or pursuing, where can they go?
you can find me on YouTube, and it's Alisa Sioni on YouTube. And I also I do a lot of music, my brothers and sisters. God has I used to write a lot of music and poetry and so forth, and that's been a long time. But then God brought it back into my life. He said, "I want you to do this," and I'm like, "Well, I can't even play a guitar anymore." And He says, "I'm going to give you this here technology to do it," which is an AI program that allows me to create music, whether no matter what genre it may be, and add the instruments, and add the singers and the type of singer and so forth. And it's all my words, it's my own creation. And I have a lot of songs over on YouTube that talks about sings about all this stuff that we talk about in our communities, anywhere from UFOs to the technologies, the Tartaria, the ice wall, and just a lot of good music that you don't hear on the radio. So I'm definitely encouraging you all to come over and check out these songs. I have like 125 of them, and I even have a little playlist that's called UFO Files, and that are very humorous UFO kind of songs and about mythical creatures. But I do it to give out to my brothers and sisters, to give them something to listen to that's going to be encouraging to them, that's going to keep them going forwards, than to listen to something that is telling them what to think on the radio, and it has commercials too, to buy. But I just try to do my part. So by all means, come over and enjoy it, because I just did one, my brothers and sisters. It's called Aliens in the White House. And it's really, really good. And another one's called Bring Down That Dome. So I would definitely encourage y'all to go over there and check out all of my music, by all means. Yes.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Alisa, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for coming on and for providing an incredibly stimulating discussion on the audio chat series. For
Thank
patriots out
you.
there, I hope you very much enjoyed our conversation. I look forward to getting back with each of you again soon on the Q News Patriot channel. Please feel free to navigate to the links in the description box below the video. And for now, God bless everyone and stay safe. This is SG Anon. Thanks. Bye-bye.